Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining us for number 5 in our series, Learning from Liaisons, Evictions, ARP Strategies, and more. Welcome if this is the first time joining us today, and of course, a welcome back to those who have joined us for any of our previous sessions, but both welcomes are definitely equally as special. And we have a treat for you all today. We are going, I know last week we went to Indiana and we heard from liaisons who are a part of a regional consortia. But today, we are actually going to be hearing from one of our friends in Ohio, Stephanie Collinsworth, who is the Regional Homeless Liaison of the Ohio Valley Educational Services Center. So this is a larger surface area, but she's going to go in and tell you more about that. But before I turn it over to Stephanie, I'm so sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Alian Anderson. I am the Policy and Outreach Associate for Schoolhouse Connection, and I'm joined by the wonderful Executive Director of Schoolhouse, Barbara Duffield. So she's our other co-host. And before we turn over to Stephanie, just want to do a couple of quick housekeeping things with everyone. So I want to let everyone know that if you have any questions throughout the presentation, we will be sure to get to them. You can look to the right-hand side in the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can go in the questions pane and feel free to leave your questions there, all of your questions there. And if you look in the handouts pane below that, you will find a resource document which has resources related to eviction prevention and response, as well as resources related to the American Rescue Plan Act funds and all of that good stuff. We also have a copy of the presentation that Stephanie will be sharing with us today. So if you guys want to access that as well and follow along there, then you can. And we're also going to be sending those to you all at the end of the presentation in an email. And without further ado, I'll go to an advertisement for our Schoolhouse Connection Scholarship Program. So in case you guys weren't aware, Schoolhouse Connection, we offer a scholarship program every year. We pick at least 10 students who have experienced homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness, and they receive a scholarship for the next school year. So if you have any youth in your school or in your community who you know might be interested, we highly, highly, highly encourage you to point them to the application. We love to see them, and we love to see lots of applications. And you know, I'm sure everyone here wants their kids to get that scholarship, so you have to get them to apply. But that's it. And without further ado, Stephanie, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say thank you to Schoolhouse Connection for these past 5 weeks of webinars, learning from liaisons. I'd mentioned to them before starting how much I've been inspired and learned from everyone that's been speaking. So it's just been a plethora of information that I've utilized, and I hope today that I can bring that to the table as well for you. I hope that some of the things that I share inspire you, maybe offer some solutions to some of the struggles that you have. So I'm happy to bring what I have and see if that can help you with your service areas as well. So my name is Stephanie Collinsworth, and I work as the Regional Homeless Liaison for the Ohio Valley Educational Service Center. We're located in Cambridge, Ohio, and we have a second office in Marietta. If you're familiar with Ohio at all, it's Marietta is close to the Ohio River, which borders West Virginia, just to kind of give you a geographic area of where we're at. So just a little bit about educational service centers. I'm sure some of you are familiar with them, but there are 53 ESCs in the state of Ohio. And educational service centers are not school districts, but we provide services to school districts, along with resources, technology, administrative support, and professional development to schools. And the educational service centers are considered, and I'm sure you're familiar with the terminology, local educational agencies, or LEAs. And in the state of Ohio, any school district with fewer than 16,000 students are required to be connected to an educational service center. So the school districts that we service obviously have chosen to be connected with us. Now, if there was a school district, say a larger area, like an urban area, if they had over 16,000 students, for example, they could choose to align, though they're not required. And every 2 years, if a school district wants to realign with another educational service center or an ESC for whatever reason, if they want to change the services, if they want to, just have some other different options, they can do that every 2 years. The Ohio Valley ESC, we currently service 7 districts, and we have 2 career centers, and we have just a little under 10,000, 9,700, I'd round it up, who are enrolled in our school districts. I think the reason I put some of these demographics, I think to help give a picture of how large our service area is. The schools are located within 4 counties, 4 different counties in the state of Ohio, in the southeastern pocket of the state. It covers more than 2,200 square miles. One school district, which actually has the largest amount of McKinney-Vento students that are accounted for, is just under 550 square miles, and it's very rural. So we do really work with the rural areas, though we do have pockets of larger cities, such as Marietta and Zanesville, Ohio, if you're familiar with those cities, which house the career centers. Now, one of the career centers has 1,100 students, and the other one I think has around 500, just to give you an idea. And for the school year, this last school year for 2020-21, the OVESC accounted for just under 600 McKinney-Vento identified students that were identified from the local liaisons in our school districts. Next slide. So when I was thinking about, everything that I had done, I wanted to really identify what I did, because there are 3 areas that help me with where I want to focus. So I assist the local liaisons with tools, resources to help identify, to help enroll students, and to keep those students in school. And I want to assist the local liaisons. And as you are aware of, real quick, each school district is charged with a local liaison. You have to have a local liaison for each school district. So I work very closely with those individual local liaisons. And one of the things that I can help the local liaisons with is procure those resources. I know that a lot of you are liaisons or maybe work with the school district liaisons. They wear many different hats. They just don't do liaisons in the schools. They're doing different things. So for me to be able to go in and help with resources or help take some of that, pressure off them, or to help provide things that they're just not able to get out. I mean, they're in school during the day, right? If I can help provide that, that's what I want to be able to do. So I help procure resources and supplies that they may need to assist their McKinney-Vento students and families. One of the things that this is when I was first introduced to Schoolhouse Connection, is to help get information to them. So that could pertain to local, state, and federal information, anything that would concern the rights and services of McKinney-Vento students and families. I want to make sure that's disseminated to the local liaisons. For example, last year when they had the moratorium, I wanted to keep them abreast of that information. And so one of the things that I wanted to highlight when I was talking today is I try not to inundate the liaisons with information, but I try to make it short and sweet, but I want to stay connected to them. So maybe it's an email once a week with just a snippet of information. One of the things that I found really, really helpful is to be connected. I like social media. I'm not a huge Facebook fan, but I love Twitter. I like Twitter because it's you can only write so much on Twitter, but it's a lot of information in a very short amount of space. And so I have discovered state like Twitter accounts, for example, like the governor of Ohio, for whatever reason, he just has a ton of really relevant information to what I do, if it's in regards to the rental assistance for the community action agencies. He had a lot of information last year on the moratorium. He has information on workforce and different things that have been very helpful that I can send along. I will tell you, I've sent Schoolhouse Connection. I think I've shared this with Barbara and Alian before, but last year when I first started was during the pandemic. I started about a year ago, and a lot of our schools were in a virtual setting, right? And so they had a resource, and many of you may remember this, how to identify students in a virtual setting. And it was a one-page flyer, and it was posted on their website. And I thought, I wonder if the liaisons would like that. So I sent an email out, I think the following day or maybe the following week, and just said real quickly, hey, if you are, in a place where you can email this to teachers or want to place it on a bulletin board or somewhere where people could help you identify, here you go, it's a one-page flyer. And the feedback that I got from them was really positive. So I like to use those resources that they might not have had access to really share that with them, to use that as resources for identification purposes. One of the things that I want to do is develop and maintain community partnerships. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm able to get resources, clothing items, food, assistance with all kinds of different things for the schools through the community partnerships that I've made. We were able to place families in homeless shelters because of the partnerships that we've developed. That is so important. And advocacy. I've been to meetings with families to help support them. Oftentimes families come, they're very stressed out, they're upset, they're chaotic. Being homeless is a chaotic situation, and so just to be with them in a meeting to help kind of quell those fears, just as an advocate. Sometimes I'll just even text a family that I've been working with and just check in with them to see how they're doing. And establish and maintain communication with the families and students. I just alluded to that. That's really, I learned that really early on in case management. That's just really important to stay connected with these families if you can. I know we all have busy lives, I do, but to really just stay in touch with them, I think is huge. Even if it's, hey, just how are you doing? Hang in there kind of thing, I think is really, really important. And to develop programming that will assist in identification, enrollment, and provide resources. We've done a couple of things. We did a summer science program we created through a nature preserve. We partnered with a nature preserve to provide science kits for McKinney-Vento students over the summer. We have a reading materials program that we've been able to develop. And I think for the winter break, we're looking at right now doing an educational box of materials so that when kids break, the McKinney-Vento students, they have activities to continue that learning process, to engage them continuing in fun learning activities. So we want to do that during the winter months. So those are some of the things that I've been able to do to help support those, identification, enrollment, and stabilization. So what I see in my area in terms of current trends and of evictions and homelessness is probably very similar to what you all experience. There may be some differences because we are a rural area. I remember there was one of the, I don't know what her title was, but she talked about the crisis of affordable housing. And so I would say that we experience that here, the lack of affordable housing. There's no question. We do have the rental assistance money, the COVID funding, but there just aren't the houses there, apartments for families to transition to. Identification, the local liaisons are charged with sending out the residency forms, but still we know that there are unidentified McKinney-Vento students, so we want to be able to capture those, and I want to develop some programming and professional development to help the local liaisons increase those numbers, to find everyone that we can. Transportation, we're rural. We don't have a subway system here. We don't have trains. It's like busing, and it's not adequate for the area. There's some areas that are so rural. I was talking with a liaison yesterday that when the rains come up over the roads, they'll cancel school. The buses can't get to where they need to go to get the kids from their homes to school or wherever they're at. So transportation is an issue. Of course, limited resources due to rural areas. Some of these areas are really remote, and I've experienced that. I've driven in these territories, so they don't have broadband access. There's not a local grocery store, things like that. Generational poverty, of course, the opioid crisis. I'm part of what they call a choices board. They have the healing community study here, which is a a group of professionals talking about bringing funds to try and really help with the drug crisis here. Of course, the low socioeconomic status here, jobs and lower wages, job losses due to the pandemic. Particularly in one of the counties here, we had a boom of the oil and gas industry. And so when they came, the rental housing prices just skyrocketed, and it was just very difficult for people to rent at those kinds, because they were bringing in workers who could pay those kinds of higher rents because of the wages that they were making. So that created a problem. And virtual learning is a trend because there's lack of stable broadband services. And maybe some of you who live in in like urban areas, you would think, well, you don't have internet connection. Some of them really don't. Sometimes when I would travel to some of these areas, my phone doesn't work. There isn't internet access. There's no connectivity. So that's something that families struggle with as well. Go ahead. Next. Okay. So what do I do? When I started about a year ago, what kinds of tools did I want to bring to the table to help with evictions and homelessness? One of the things that I did right out of the gate, when I was going through McKinney-Vento, is to create a resource folder for the liaisons. Well, the liaison said, we need material to give to the homeless families when they come. We don't want to, just hand them, a piece of paper and explain to them certain things. We want them to have information that they can readily use. And so what I did is my supervisor, we purchased the plastic accordion style folders that you can expand. And in those folders, I put not a ton of information, but a complete resource guide that I created for that specific county. I put information on their rights and services for youth and for parents. I put in information on if they lost important documents like a social security, a birth certificate. These families are in transition, so sometimes they lose those documents, right? They lose birth certificates, they lose school records, immunization records, right? Everything that you need to be enrolled. I created a document on how to replace those, and I put all of those items in a folder, and I gave those to each of the school districts so that when they were presented with a family that identified as McKinney-Vento, they could hand those folders and say, here is information for you. And then they could in turn use those folders to house that information to keep safe. Their social security cards, birth certificates, rental agreements, things like that. So that was a huge help to the local liaisons. Develop relationships with local landlords, community action agencies, homeless shelters, public housing, all the networking basically. Now the next one is something that I kind of fell into, and this is something I really think it can be replicated in other communities. I needed housing for a family, and they just could not find housing. And so I literally one day picked up or went to Google and just Googled a report to a realtor. And I spoke with a realtor that day. And she said, well, tonight we're having a landlord meeting. And I said, a landlord meeting, what is that? And she said, well, we all get together in the county. There's about 15 of us, and we meet and we just talk about everything landlord. And she said, would you like to come and present, what your needs are and what you're looking for? Because I basically was asking, do you have any rental houses? Is there a place that you're renting? And I couldn't because of some scheduling conflict. But what I'd like to do this school year is to create not just in one county, but in all the counties that our school districts are located in, an opportunity to meet with landlords and talk to them about housing and creating opportunities for our families, and even encouraging them to look into housing choice voucher programs, to develop those relationships, to strongly encourage that bridge between maybe higher risk tenants and housing. And that is something that I'm really inspired to do, and that I really fell into that. And so, but that is something that I feel like could be replicated very easily. There's realtor associations that you could become part of too, to help them. And I think that it could be a positive thing too, so that landlords understand some of the needs a little bit more. Another area that I want to help is with identification, and create identification resources for them, provide professional development, of course, and stay connected through short emails. I already said that. Just stay connected with them. I don't want to send them a ton of information because I know they're busy, but once and maybe once a week, or hey, how are you doing? Or something from Schoolhouse Connection I feel like they would benefit from, or something that I found online through one of my researching on social media, things that I found relevant. Your housing agencies, I know Ohio, if anyone's here from Ohio, you might know that agency. They have a great Twitter account too that always has terrific information and resources. I utilize that too a lot. And just to stay connected with the liaisons. That's what I think is really an important part of my job. And one of the things I want to do is really saturate the territories with McKinney-Vento identification materials. Do you know, I think a lot of people don't know that when you are homeless, a student or a family, that you have specific rights and services that are appropriate for you. And I don't think a lot of people know that. And so what can I do to help market that? Can I go into the community, of course, with the local liaison's permission, but to take it to where people are, healthcare agencies, hospitals, laundromats, apartment complexes, grocery stores, libraries, public health departments, wherever, to get that information to the community and let people know that they have specific rights and services. And it's a great networking opportunity too. You get to talk to these people and develop those relationships. Next slide.
Before we continue, I just wanted to ask if you could speak a little bit more about the relationship that you were able to develop with the tax credit properties and how you kind of went about doing that and like informing them of the issue. Anything
Right.
that you like.
I actually came to this job. I have a second job that I work at. I've worked for 3 years. I work with tax credit properties. So I already had that kind of established. But one of the things that I want to do, and for example, yesterday I just found out there was a tax credit property that was developed in 2020 in one of our southern counties. And they just opened just a few weeks ago, and they're pre-leasing now. And I had a homeless family that I wanted to refer to them, so I reached out to them. It's literally a phone call, but because of my background, because I work there, I already had some connections with some of the management. And I know that it sounds maybe too simple, but it's really a phone call. Like, for example, I didn't know about this specific tax credit property, but I called this lady and I said, we had a conversation, and she immediately sent me some information, an application. They do accept housing choice vouchers. She said, we're pre-leasing, but we're going through the list pretty quickly. So I was immediately able to send that information to the local liaison and said, this gives her this family a few more options. So I just can't stress enough, just outreach, just a phone call, just going, like I had a meeting today, taking advantage of every opportunity that you get. Like I just mentioned, marketing materials. It's developing those conversations. And I think the next slide I'll talk a little bit about. You can go ahead and go to the next slide if you'd like. Did that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
So one of the biggest things that I always do is I always carry a business card with me. I always have some information if I'm talking with someone, or if you wear your badge out and about too. That's a great talking point. But that goes back to the conversation with the landlords, is to network, really to talk about your program, to do. I was asked to do a presentation today for an organization to consider that. And so to take those opportunities, because your information can be given to another person who would give that to another person, then you have people who are knowledgeable and then can maybe start getting invested in what you do. And that just leads to conversation and resources. That's what I found to happen for me. And of course, one of the things that I want to complete this year is developing an informational resource landing page for our website. And so that would literally be something on our website where people can go, if they Googled, they probably wouldn't be Googling McKinney-Vento, but they might Google homelessness or something that would bring them, if they were in our school districts, so that they could get the information. I think that's important, and I encourage all of our school districts to do that as well. Now, this is something that we're starting, I think might be interesting. We want to develop a tenant-based certification program. So I actually heard about this through a meeting. I think it was through our state coordinator. We had a kind of a brown bag Zoom, and someone had brought up this tenant certification program, and I was really excited about it. I'm like, what's that? A tenant-based certification program. So I literally Googled tenant-based certification program. And I came up with a few things, but then I found a program that we are already partnered with Ohio State University Extension Office. The program that I came across was already out of a different extension office in Wisconsin, but essentially the program is a training program for tenants to complete different modules. And at the end of those modules, they literally get a certification of completion. They can present that to a landlord as an incentive to rent to them. And not only that, and it's even better, the program that I found out at the different state extension office, they have partnered with public housing agencies to help them with, like first month security deposit if they complete this program, or giving them some sort of an incentive, monetary incentive to complete it. And then they can present that to the landlord as kind of an insurance policy. Like, this is what I've done. And the modules are really informative. They talk about financial management. They talk about being responsible. There was one module that I went through that I thought was fantastic, even taught how to take care of your home, like do this on a daily basis. This is how you take care of a home, like cleaning. But then they also have a section on, what the landlord rights are, what your rights are as a tenant. And there's 6 modules of that. And so we are working right now with the Ohio State University Extension Office to see what we can put together. I'm going to take a training course with my supervisor in December. And we're hoping I'm hoping within the next several months, we're going to be able to get this procured and offer this to our communities. And I want to partner with as many agencies and organizations as I can so that we can get tenants certified so they can use this as a tool to overcome some obstacles that they have. Maybe it's a challenged background, maybe it's a poor rental history. And one of the selling points for me was the agency that was using or the extension office in a different state. They were even using the certification to kind of, I'll use the word absolve 1 year of bad credit history, or 1 year of being evicted from a home, and that was kind of being erased. And so that's something that I'm really excited about procuring for our communities. I talked about advocacy for families. We have a family support team where we have a parent mentor, a family liaison that works with us. And so these are different tools that I can utilize. One of the things that my supervisor put together, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is what we call a rack card. And this literally, it's our information. It's kind of like a brochure, if you will, but we gave that to every single staff member in all of our schools. And if you go to the next slide real quick, you can kind of toggle back and forth. That's a magnet, and you can put that anywhere. A teacher could put it on, like they have the filing cabinets in their rooms. It's just a constant reminder to be looking for that. One of the things that I think is so important is the whole identification piece, because without that, I can't really help in everything that I've described. I can't help people, right? I want to identify as many students as possible because they have those specific rights and services. And I feel like there's a lot of families and students that are being underserved because maybe they're afraid, maybe they don't know, it's intimidating, there's a stigma. And I want it to be this conversation of, no, we want to help you, because when we can identify and get you enrolled, and if we can use all these resources that we've created to stabilize you, then that's a good thing. That's a good day, right? We want to be able to do that. And we can't get to the stabilization part if we don't know that you're struggling with housing, right? And so I want everyone to be aware, all of the school staff, of homelessness and how to look for it and who to contact. So that's just a tool that I think anybody could use, right? It's super easy. My supervisor did a great job of putting that together, and we've been able to disseminate that to, I believe, all of our school districts at this point. So that's a tool that somebody could use or take a look at. You can go to the next slide. Is that it? Okay. So I think we're at the ESSER funds. Barbara, do you want to jump in?
There's just so far, there's just a comment that just says, love that tenant certification program. I would like to get the program information you will be implementing if possible. So I guess the question is, how can listeners, find out about the tenant certification program? Will we put a link on a website, or how can we sort of stay abreast of that? Because it sounds like it's a fantastic program. Yeah, but and another thing right now, do you have a link for the tenant certification program?
Yeah, I mean, I can send you what I have. We utilized, it was actually the Ohio State University of Wisconsin. They've developed that program. It's been in place for several years, but yeah, I can get that information to you, no problem. We're just in the infancy stage. We're working with, we have three different, we have one, two, three extension offices here in different counties in Ohio that we're working with. So we're just in the beginning stages, but absolutely, I can get that information to you.
And a third, I'm interested in too. Somebody just emailed a community partner if they want to work on this. So it seems like that is the very popular idea. So we'll look forward, and we can maybe even try, if you send it to us, we can try to get it out to people who registered for this webinar as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you want me to go ahead and jump in and talk about so this is how we are structuring the use of our American Rescue Plan funds. And, I've talked about identification and stressing the importance of that. I hope that's come through pretty loud and clear. I think that's, just super important. And so we want to help with the return of residential forms in any way that we can. If that's a phone call, if that's bulk mailings, if that's emails. I already talked about getting out in the community, marketing that, however we can help aid in that, that's what we want to do for sure. Prepaid cell phones for families in need, that's an area that we want to help out with. We also can help with course and mentor fees. We have a Blue Sky Virtual Academy that if there's a need there, we can help pay for some of those fees. We have virtual tutoring that's available across all of our school districts, so we can use some of the funding for that. And I talked a little bit about the technology issues here. So we want to help with technology, if it's a Chromebook, if it's an actual, physical technology, or if it's a hotspot, creating that accessibility for students so that they, if they're in a hotel, or if they're, in an area that they just can't access, we want to be able to help support them connecting. We want to encourage attendance by providing local liaisons with hygiene items, clothing items, supplies for students. We made a connection with a local charity. There's a program, I think it's nationwide, where some non-for-profits, they partner with different, like Walmart, Target, Kohl's. They pay a fee, I think, per year, and they get all of their returns. I don't know if it's called 360. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. But this one, it's a faith-based organization. They get all of these returns. Everything's brand new. And we have partnered with them. And I can't tell you, they've given us undergarments, brand new. In fact, I was there a couple weeks ago. They gave me brand new jogging suits for girls. And I've been able to take those to the schools. And most schools, I have resource closets. That's something that I didn't talk about, but that's a great source for them when students come in. If their clothes aren't clean, or if they don't have appropriate clothing, the students can go to the resource closet and utilize the things there. Just today, my supervisor took down a box of clothing items, girls and boys undergarments, socks. I had hygiene kits in there. We partnered at the end of the last school year. Susanna Wayland, who is the state coordinator, connected us with a program called Souls for Souls, which donated 750 pairs of schools to our school districts, our McKinney-Vento students. And we were able to deliver those shoes, and they got 2 pairs of socks per shoe to the schools. So in terms of, the clothing and supplies, obviously that was free, but we can, supplement, like we are purchasing some hygiene kits for the resource closets for our liaisons. So that's how some of the money can be used. Transportation, obviously, I mean, that's kind of a given. If they need transportation, we're going to help, get them to school. Parent education, that was actually a request from a liaison when I first started, to provide parent education. It's just a support. Families are in crisis when they're experiencing homelessness. And any way that we could help support a family to stabilize, to have a place to go, a safe place to go where they can talk about the stress in the family. There's an organization here that even has like a call-in line that if a family is in crisis and they just need someone to talk to, and I put that in my resource guide, but if we can support our families that way with parent education, we want to do that. Talked about the Tenant Certification program. We want to use some of our funding to incentivize it, marketing materials. We're going to work all those details out, but monies can be used for that. I talked a little bit before about the science kits, which are fantastic, reading materials, anything you can do to encourage that continuum of learning, that continuum, and it keeps students engaged, right? It keeps them engaged. It keeps them busy through the summer breaks and the winter breaks. Counseling, if they need counseling, we can refer to counseling to further support the families. Legal support, I mean, there is legal aid. Legal aid doesn't always cover everything. And sometimes their caseloads are full, and sometimes they can't help every family. So if there's a specific need for legal services, we want to be able to help with that. And assist districts with supplemental funding for liaison salaries if need be, right? We want to be able to support the school district in that form as well. So that seems like a lot, but I mean, those are the things that we feel like we can do to really help, support those three components, right? Of identification, keeping those kiddos enrolled, and then stabilization. So that's what we foresee utilizing the funds for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. You shared a lot of really good information, but it's great. It's great information for sure. While I give everyone some time to, if you have any questions, drop them in the questions pane. I just want to take this opportunity to do one last advertisement for our 2021 Schoolhouse Connection Scholarship Program. In case you missed it in the beginning, like I mentioned, I'm sure everyone here would love for some of their students, or at least one of their students, to receive this scholarship. It's a $2,000 scholarship, and SHC scholars also receive one-on-one support and case management from our team. And trust me, Schoolhouse Connection scholars are Schoolhouse Connection family for life. So I just encourage everyone to encourage the youth in your districts and in your communities to apply by the deadline. Well, the actual deadline that's listed currently is tomorrow, October 15th, but we will extend it, right, Barbara? And Barbara, if you want to jump in and say anything as well to add to the commercial break, feel free.
No, just to say that we are the way the scholarship application is set up. I get a ping every time an application comes in, and they're starting to roll in. But we're really excited to be able to continue to offer the program. Our director of youth leadership and scholarship has been really brilliant in keeping the students connected during the pandemic and developing relationships and peer support. So, and I'm glad to see some comments in the chat box that we are getting some students to apply for that, and also. Stephanie, you are getting accolades as well. And one question here, which is, you talked a little bit about using ARP funds to incentivize participation in the tenant certification program. So just curious what some of your ideas are for that, like how you would use those funds to actually incentivize families to participate.
Yeah, so we haven't, worked out all the details on that, but one of the things that I came across when I was doing a little bit of the research, there was, this wasn't with the program that I came across, but it was another program. They would have a kind of a raffle, and one of the ideas was to help supply like a really nice vacuum cleaner, for example, for someone when they're moving into a new home, or things that people would have a hard time purchasing. I don't know, maybe cooking supplies, things that would be difficult. Those are kind of material things. But in terms of, I'm thinking bigger picture too, like maybe a security deposit, maybe the first month's rent. We haven't exactly ironed out all the details. Need to work with our, state coordinator to get permission with everything. But we talked a little bit about that. So we're hoping we're going to be able to do that. We'll, hopefully we won't run into too many roadblocks with that. But yeah, we're really hoping that, to get participation, but to get the buy-in, from people, from the community, and for this to really take off, because I could just really see it being a great tool. I mean, obviously for tenants, right? But for landlords too, to really make, I think we think of tenant and landlord relationships as adversarial, and I don't think it needs to be that way. And I think when clients or tenants are approaching a landlord who are coming from homelessness, who are coming from challenged backgrounds, who are coming from past evictions, to have something like this to say, it's almost like they've gone to school and really worked through a lot of those and ironed out some of those problems. It's just such a positive thing, right? And so if we can help create a place where we can attract people through some of that incentivizing, that's what we're hoping that we can do.
Great. Let's see if there are any additional questions that come in for you.
I did see one question come in related to the scholarship program, asking like which level of students is eligible to apply. And yes, this does apply to high school seniors, also persons who are in GED programs at the moment, and students who plan to take a gap year. Undocumented students who meet all of the rest of the criteria are also eligible, and the remaining criteria just includes persons, like applicants must have experienced homelessness within the last 6 years, and they must live in the United States. We also have like additional information on the scholarship program on our website under the heading Schoolhouse Connection Youth Leadership and Scholarship Program. So if you want to find out more about it, feel free to head there too.
Getting a bunch of thank yous. I'll wait a little bit and see if there's any additional questions. And Stephanie, do you have a part of the ESC website where you have more information about, like, for example, the common signs and those sorts of pieces?
We don't have our landing page. That's something that I said that we wanted to work on, but I mean, I can give you our website to our OVSC. It's just ovsc.org, or you can Google Ohio Valley Educational Service Center.
Great.
And one last question for you, Stephanie, before we go. If you had one thing that you could impart on everyone here, what would it be related to evictions or ARP, whatever you want?
Well, before I started, I said that I'd been working with a family all year. I told you guys that real quick, and we was a family that we had helped place at a homeless shelter, and today they were placed in a house. They found housing. And so I would say to everyone who works in this field, who has a connection with McKinney-Vento, who, in whatever capacity that is to stay hopeful, to stay engaged, to keep going, to keep trucking, as I tell my families and students, right? And because it felt impossible. I have to be honest with you, because they needed a 4-bedroom house because they have a large family. And so we were able to help them, and not me, our team was able to do that. So stay hopeful, celebrate the victories, and then, tomorrow you continue to go to work for those other families that are, in a situation where they need housing. And so that's really what drives me to do what I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I'm saying that thank you not even just from me, but you're getting a lot of thanks in the questions pane as well. But truly, thank you so much for sharing such great
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it and hope you've been enjoying the series so far. If you've missed any of our previous 4 sessions, feel free to go on the Schoolhouse Connection website and you'll find the other ones under archived webinars. I promise you they're all full of great stuff as well. So yeah, go check it out. Thank you all again for joining us, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.